What do you see when you think of her? Think deeply. What do you see? What picture do you have in your head when you think of her? When you imagine her, her representation in your mind, when you think of her, what do you see? You see what? Her legs, her ass, her boobs, her face, her hair, her eyes, her body, what she's wearing, a tight dress, high heels, pleasant look. All you see, all she's represented into your mind, when you imagine her, when you think of her, is physical part of her, some physical entity, a part of her body. And any part of her body, of a woman, we cannot not like. We are programmed to like the body of a woman. Why? Because it represents pleasure to us. And we cannot dislike or not miss something that brings pleasure, that we're programmed to think of it as pleasurous. So when you think of her, you think of her body, you think of her physical presence, you think of her look, her hair, maybe her eyes, her hands, her breast, her body, her fitness, what she wore, how tidy she is or not, whatever. You see all these good things, but these are all physical presentation, expression of her in your mind, in your image, in the picture that you see. When you think of her, this is what you think. And never in the world, when we think of some woman's body, we are bothered with it. We love women's body. We appreciate it. We adore it. So it's pleasure. So when we think of her, there's nothing not to like, nothing to be bothered. So obviously you're going to miss it. You're going to miss her. You're going to think of her. You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel depressed that you don't have her, because all you were thinking about was the physical part of her that represents pleasure and which represents you like. You're programmed to like, body of a woman. The physical presence of a woman is a wonderful thing to us. We're programmed to love it. So there is no dislike there. So when there is no dislike there, how could you not miss her? Of course you would miss her. Of course you can get rid of her, because it's pleasant thinking. It's pleasant image. It's pleasant picture. Why would you not think of something that is pleasant? And when you think of her, which is all physical, thought of her being is pleasant. And we are accustomed to think of pleasant things, especially if it's a woman's beauty, woman's body. It makes us enjoy pleasures. So what does that mean? Let me have a sip of this and you think, what does that mean to you when you do that? That means you're having a bloody wrong picture. You're having a bloody wrong information of her, because you bring in representation of what is pleasurous and likable, and you wonder why you are missing her. Of course you would. But if you would, you see, because when you think of her, there is no attachment of her character. There is no attachment of her mentality. There is no inclusion of her spirit. There is no personality to it. There is no mentality. There is no class. There is no energy. There is no behavior. There is no all the problems that you were facing with her. None of it is there. So the picture that you have of her is a pure physical beauty or pleasurous picture. So the things that would cause the problem, the emotions, the coldness, the difference in class, difference in mentality, difference in understanding or communication, all the difference in taste, and all the problems, all the dogmas, all the emotional problems, all the things that you guys had, all the spiritual differences, and her spirits and her energy, none of that is represented when you think of her in your mind. The only thing of her that is represented to you in your mind is her physical body, and there's nothing there not to like. But if there was an attachment, a file of all these energy and differences and all these that we talked about, of her spirits, with that picture that you would picture it, then you would have the whole picture of her, and then you would be totally remembered that that person, that personality, that entity, with all of her being, is not what you would enjoy to think about. You would not like to think about, because if there was a picture that you could draw, that it could be drawn by computer, by however, it could be captured, a picture captured of her personality, of her character, of her energy, of her emotions, of her spirit, then it would have been an ugly picture, like a Dementor in Harry Potter movies. It would be a dark picture, an ugly picture. You would see the whole of what would be affecting you, what you were dealing with, and what you had in your life. But you don't have all of those that actually is and was the differences and the conflicts and divisions and the problems, but you don't have it with the picture that you're thinking of her. So obviously you'll keep thinking of it. Now you change the picture to the reality of her, which means attach all these credentials, all these characteristics, all what makes a person. Give it a personality to that image that you bring to your head. Then you will see you don't like it. You don't want to think about it. You don't miss it. You're actually very happy to be away from it, because you don't even care if she makes love with somebody else or not, chooses somebody else to go on a date or not, if she's got a boyfriend or not, if eventually she will go to bed with someone, if she's been to bed with someone right away, right now. You don't give a shit, because you had the correct picture of her whole being. It wasn't just the physical pleasurous parts that had no personality, no energy, no bad things to it, no spirit to it. It was just something that we liked. We were programmed to like it. And you would see the whole thing, and when you see the whole thing, if you would capture the right picture of the whole thing, that picture wouldn't be pleasant, it would be unpleasant. And then you would know why you don't want to be thinking about it. In your mind, naturally, your superconsciousness would naturally filter that, would not want you to think about this personality with the whole picture of her, physical and emotional and spiritual, which then the whole picture would have been something unpleasant. Maybe a dark picture, ugly, and something that was unpleasant. Look, if you have a picture of a beautiful woman smiling like this, and a picture of the same woman with a dagger and look bad and blood coming out of the dagger, you don't want it. It's the same person, but it has a personality, has an action, has a spirit, has an energy to it. It's doing something. So now you have the action and the energy and intention and the spirit of that action and that person with the picture, which now total picture is totally something you don't want to have anything to do with it. But this other one had no personality, no action. It was just standing here, and its standing was just a body, a beautiful body. So we like to think about it. And that's why you think you're missing her, because you're only imagining her, part of her being, a physical part of her is being represented in your mind, not the whole of her being represented. So, if you give it the personality that she had, brings to your attention all the problems that you had with her and how your life would have been if you would have stayed together, and you could see the whole picture, and the picture would be a bad looking picture. And because you have the wrong picture and representation in your mind, therefore you can't get rid of it. But as soon as you give the right spirit and energy and create the right picture, image in your mind when you think of her, by reminding yourself of the actuality and the truth and the entirety of the whole relationship and who she is, then naturally you would automatically keep reminding yourself. As soon as you think of her, you bring the actuality and fact and emotion and spirit of her into her physical image that you get, and then quickly you dislike it. Quickly you dislike it. And soon enough, the only picture that would come to your mind would be the entirety, the whole of her, which would include her physical image plus the attachment of personality, the spirit, the energy, and all the problems and the dogmas and differences and conflicts that comes with it, which makes that physical being a persona, a personality, a person, something that was the cause of problems. Then you would see the whole of it. And that is what you should be thinking of her when you imagine her, when you think of her, the whole of her, not just a picture that has no guilt, personality differences, division, conflict with it. That could represent the whole of her in your mind. So, if you think of what I'm saying, you will see that you're looking at the wrong picture. That's why you keep looking at it. You give to the picture the right drawings, the right lines, the right exposure, then you will expose the actuality of what it is that comes to your mind of her, and you will have no stomach, no interest, no time to be with her, and you would say, thank God I'm not with her. I want to be as distant as possibly I can from her. And that's how you get rid of it, by constantly correcting the image to the actuality and truth of her, which means include her personality, her energy, and her spirit, her everything that went on, all the conflict and divisions that you guys were experiencing. And on that note, I want you to think about it and constantly correct the image that comes to your head of her with the actuality of the whole of her, and then you will see that picture, whatever it is not something I want to keep it in mind. I just want to get rid of it, and pretty soon you will be conditioned not to be having such an image in your mind because it's an unpleasant picture. Have a nice evening and talk to you soon.